Did the Delhi Sultanate really defeat the most feared war machine in history, the Mongol Empire? Incredibly, yes. Not once, but in 8 major invasions across decades, Delhi stood tall against a force that had already decimated the Islamic Caliphate in Baghdad, crushed Eastern Europe, and erased entire kingdoms across Asia. But how? The answer lies in a mix of military genius, strategic foresight, bold economic reforms, and a deep understanding of Mongol warfare. When Ghiyas Uddin Balban took the throne in the mid-13th century, the Mongol threat loomed large across the northwestern frontier. By then, the Mongol Empire had already fractured after the death of Genghis Khan, breaking into rival khanates that vied for dominance. Around 1260, a brutal civil war broke out between 2 of these successor states, the Ilkhanate and the Golden Horde. The war displaced thousands of warriors, nobles, and commoners from Central Asia, Persia, and the Mongol steppes. Many sought refuge in India, and here Balban made a fateful decision. He welcomed these refugees. But this wasn't mere charity. It was strategic brilliance. Many of the arriving warriors had first-hand experience with Mongol tactics. Some had fought for the Mongols, others against them. By integrating these men into his military, Balban tapped into a deep reservoir of knowledge about Mongol formations, horse warfare, feigned retreats, and siege tactics. The Delhi Sultanate didn't just gain soldiers, it gained insight. Balban began reorganizing his military defenses, building garrisons in key locations, and fortifying cities across the north. He turned the Sultanate from a feudal kingdom into a strong, centralized state prepared for battle. But it was the next ruler who turned Delhi into a military machine. Alauddin Khilji was not just a sultan. He was a revolutionary. When he seized the throne in 1296, Alauddin found a kingdom constantly on edge from both internal rebellions and external threats. But he didn't flinch. He acted. First, he dismantled the outdated Ikta system, the feudal practice where local nobles raised and commanded troops. It was unreliable, corrupt, and dangerous. Instead, Alauddin built a standing army of professional soldiers who were directly recruited, trained, and paid by the state. To prevent identity fraud and corruption, he introduced the Chera system, a form of photo-less facial registration where a soldier's appearance was recorded in detail. Horses, too, were branded using the DAG system. With these reforms, Alauddin created one of the earliest professional armies in South Asia. It was disciplined, loyal, and answerable only to the Sultan. But he didn't stop there. An army marches on its stomach, and Alauddin knew it. To fund and supply this enormous army, he launched a sweeping series of economic reforms. Prices of food, horses, and weapons were strictly regulated. Hoarding and price inflation were criminalized. A military market was created fully controlled by the state. Grain storage centers were built across the empire. Alauddin ensured that, even under siege, Delhi would not starve. Supplies were moved along secured routes, guarded by soldiers and state officials. This logistical network ensured the army could sustain itself for long campaigns or lengthy defenses. Meanwhile, along the northwestern border, Alauddin built forts and garrisons in Punjab and Sindh, especially around Multan and Daipalpur, the traditional Mongol invasion routes. He appointed his most trusted generals, Zafar Khan, Ulu Khan, and Ghazi Malik, to lead these posts. These weren't just commanders. They were autonomous warlords with the authority to intercept and annihilate any Mongol threat before it reached the heart of India. Perhaps most impressively, Alauddin created an intelligence network. Spies and scouts were deployed across the northwest frontier. Traders, shepherds, and nomads were recruited as informants. Their job: report any Mongol movement through the passes of Afghanistan and northern Punjab. But despite all this, in 1299, the Mongols caught him by surprise. A massive Mongol force of 50,000 to 60,000 horsemen, led by Kutluf Khwaja, marched deep into Indian territory. They crossed the Indus, swept through Punjab, and camped just 10 kilometers from Delhi, near the village of Kili. The countryside panicked. Villagers abandoned their homes. Refugees poured into the city. For once, Alauddin had no warning. He responded instantly. Reinforcements were summoned. The army mobilized. At Siri Fort, just outside Delhi, Alauddin assembled a war machine, 70,000 soldiers, 700 war elephants, a cavalry, archers, and infantry. The army was arrayed in 3 divisions: Nusrat Khan on the left, Zafar Khan on the right, and Alauddin at the center. Ulu Khan held the reserves. Across the field, Kutluf Khwaja prepared his forces in a classic Mongol triangle. His own center was flanked by commanders Hylak and Tamar Buka. In hiding, Targai waited with an elite ambush unit of 10,000. Alauddin ordered a strict defense. No one was to charge, but Zafar Khan, bold and impetuous, disobeyed. He launched a surprise attack on Hylak's wing, forcing them to retreat. It seemed like victory, but it wasn't. It was a trap. Zafar pursued the fleeing Mongols for 55 kilometers. Separated from support, his unit was ambushed by Targai's hidden forces. Surrounded, outnumbered, and without escape, Zafar Khan and his 1,000 men made a heroic last stand. They killed 5,000 Mongols before being wiped out. Only 200 survived. His death was a devastating blow, but it also demoralized the Mongols. Kutluf Khwaja himself was injured. The Mongols, realizing the cost of further assault, retreated silently in the night. Delhi had held, but Kutluf's defeat did not end the Mongol ambition. In 1303, the Mongols returned with over 120,000 cavalry, the largest force they had ever sent to India, now under General Targai. This time, Alauddin was caught off guard. His army was away, quelling rebellions in Rajasthan. With no other option, Alauddin turned Siri Fort into a fortress. Trenches were dug. Makeshift defenses were raised. The Yamuna River and the ruins of Old Delhi formed natural barriers. The Mongols laid siege for 2 months, but they couldn't break the defenses. Supplies inside the fort held. Morale remained firm. Eventually, frustrated and unable to sustain the siege, the Mongols withdrew. In 1305, the Mongols returned yet again, this time with 50,000 warriors. But Alauddin was prepared. He dispatched a veteran general, Malik Nayak, who crushed the invaders in a brutal engagement that left the Mongol army shattered. A year later, in 1306, the Mongols made one final gamble. Alauddin sent his most capable commander, Malik Kafur, to meet them near the Ravi River in Nagaur. The Delhi army launched a surprise counterattack and utterly destroyed the Mongol force. The death of Dua Khan in 1307 plunged Central Asia into civil war. The Mongol threat to India abruptly ended. What the Delhi Sultanate achieved was extraordinary. Against the most powerful military empire the world had seen, a relatively small Indian kingdom held its ground through planning, innovation, and sheer will. The Mongols, who had destroyed Baghdad, ravaged Russia, and almost conquered Europe, could not break Delhi. Because Delhi had prepared, and Delhi had learned. This wasn't just military history. It was survival through strategy. It was the triumph of adaptation over annihilation.